This is Algebra 1, spring test number 9. It's part 2 of our study guide. Number 7, we're picking up on, says solve the system using elimination. First thing you check for elimination, this is this week's stuff. X is on top of X's, Y is on top of Y's, constants on top of constants, and also equals on top of each other. We had one like that yesterday where everything was stacked except the equals, and we had to move stuff. Second thing you check, make sure you have opposite coefficients. You got 6x and 6x. You got 3y and 2y. Neither pair is opposites. So you need to create one of them needs to be opposite of the other. The easiest version or the easier version is to make one of the sixes into negative. In order to make one of these sixes into negative, we need to multiply this equation by -1. That times this will make it negative 6x. But you can't just give it to one of them. You have to distribute -1 to everything. -1 times 3y is -3y, and -1 times -12. We know a negative times a negative is a positive 12. Now you have two equations that are still stacked with opposite coefficients for x. 6x and 6x, and -6x will eliminate when you combine them and give you a negative nothing. 2y and -3y is going to give you -1y, and -4 and positive 12 together is going to give you a positive 8. In order to get y by itself, we divide by -1, and y's value will be a -8. So we have y's value. Again, that's not the solution. Remember, a solution is an ordered pair. In order to find a solution, you need to find what x's value is. Take -8 and plug it into one of the equations right here. The first one looks good. 6x plus 3 times our new value for y, we just said is -8, is equal to -12. 3 times -8 is -24. So we have 6x minus 24 is equal to -12. Undo this by working your order of operations backwards. Undo addition and subtraction. We have minus 24 there. You want to get x by itself, add 24 to both sides. -12 plus 24, opposite signs, subtract them. 24 minus 12, and you get 12. 24 is the higher absolute value, so keep it positive. Positive 12 is equal to, we still have 6x on this side. In order to get x by itself, divide by 6 to cancel out 6 times x, inverse operation of multiplication, and divide the other side by 6. 12 divided by 6 is 2. X is 2. Y is -8. Again, you did all of the hard work. You'll get no credit if you turn it in like this. It is x comma y, or 2, -8. Here is the solution to the ordered pair of the system, 2, -8, that 1 point. Number 8 says 5x plus 4y is 0. X minus 4y equals -24. Again, everything is stacked. X is on top of x's, y is on top of y's, constants on top of constants. This one, however, has opposites, 4 and -4. So when we put them together, we don't have to change any equations. 5x combined with 1x is 6x. 4y compared with -4y is no more y's. And 0 combined with -24 is -24. So 6x is equal to -24. Divide by 6 on both sides to get x by itself. A negative divided by positive is a negative. 24 divided by 6 is 4. X is -4. Again, you have to get y's value. X's value is going to come up here, and it's going to plug right back in. You could plug it into any of the equation if you thought the other one was easier to do that. 5 times x is 5 times now -4. That's our new value of x. Plus 4y equals 0. 5 times -4 is -20. Plus 4y is 0. Get y by itself. Again, we're doing order of operations right here. We're undoing it, so we're going backwards. Undo minus 20 since it says -20 by adding 20. If you do it to the left, remember you do it to the right to balance it. 4y is equal to 0 plus 20 is 20. One more step, get y by itself. It says 4 times y. Undo times something by dividing by 4. If you do it to the left, do it to the right. 20 divided by 4 is 5. So y's value is 5. Again, solution is an ordered pair, x comma y, -4, 5. This is a solution to the system of equations. Number 9 says, by what number should you multiply the first equation to solve using elimination? There's only one number We can multiply the equation by any number we want, but there is only one number that we can multiply the first equation by in order to use the elimination. Remember, anytime you see this word elimination, it's the same as combination. There's only one number that we can multiply that first equation by to where we can not have to do anything to the second equation. There's no number that we can multiply the y's by, the y coefficients by. It doesn't matter what you multiply -5 by, you're not going to get to the number 2. The only number we can multiply that first equation by is dealing with the x's, making opposites out of the x's. The other x coefficient is 12. We want it to be the opposite of 12. What's the opposite of 12? -12. So what do you need to multiply 3x by to get -12? That's the question it's asking. So 3 times -4 will give you -12x. So by what number should you multiply that equation by? -4 is the solution. Number 10, solve the inequality, then graph your solution. Remember, we have absolute value of 5x plus 10 is less than 30. Less than inequalities. Anytime you're dealing with absolute value, remember, if 0 is in the middle, you're dealing with all of the distances to the left and all of the distances to the right. That's why you have to set it equal to both positive and negative. With inequalities, though, not only do you make it positive and negative, you have to reverse the symbol for the one that you changed to negative. So the first one, we're going to solve it twice. 5x plus 10 is less than 30. Notice that looks exactly like it's written without the inequality symbols. The other one is going to say 5x plus 10. Nothing's changing about that. But 30 is going to become -30. And less than is going to reverse to become greater than. You have to make it negative and reverse the symbol. So now it's just two simple two-step inequalities. Undo plus 10 by subtracting 10 on both sides. 5x then is less than 20. We didn't do anything to reverse the symbol there. Divide by 5 to get x is less than 4. There's your first one. X is less than 4. Again, we didn't have to reverse the symbol because all we did was divide by a positive 5. For the other one, it says plus 10, so subtract 10 again, the same steps. 5x is greater than -10, 30 minus 10 is -40. Divide by 5 on both sides. X, -40 divided by 5 is -8. But we're dividing by a positive. There's no reason to reverse the symbol. It will remain greater than. The one other thing you have to remember about inequalities is if you have less than, like we do in this case, it's going to be an and inequality. Remember, and inequalities are going to be in the middle of what's going on. And if you graph both of these, you'll see that. We need the number -8 on our number line, and we need the number 4. We know zero's in the middle of those. So the first one says x is less than 4. Less than 4 is an open bubble, and everything's going that direction. That's what less than means. The other one says x is greater than -8. Again, greater than is an open bubble because it's not or equal to. Greater than is everything going that direction. You can see the overlapping area between -8 and 4. That's the graph that goes with it. Number 11 says x over 8 is greater than 7. You just need to undo divide by 8 by multiplying both sides by 8. 7 times 8 we know is the number 56. Remember, with inequalities, you always have to ask yourself, do I need to reverse the symbol? There's only one thing that happens that makes you reverse the symbol. Either multiplication or division, and it's got to be by a negative number. If it's by a positive number like 8, we are not going to reverse the symbol. It's going to simply say x is greater than 56. So when we graph this, we want to show two numbers. We know we need the number 56. Just show its relation with 0. Show it's on the right side of 0 where you know you're not dealing with a negative number. Greater than is an open bubble because it doesn't say or equal to. And greater than, notice this one is going this direction. This one's going to do the same thing. It's going to go that direction. Number 12 is an and inequality. Negative 10 is less than or equal to 2x minus 4, which is less than 6. Or you can say, instead of saying which is, like I said, you can say and less than 6. That's why it's an and inequality. Unlike everything else we deal with that has a left side and a right side that we need to balance, when you have and inequalities, you have a left, right side, a right side, and you also have a middle. Anything you do to one section of it, you have to do to the other sections. You're doing your order of operations. You're trying to get x all by itself. You're doing your order of operations backwards like we typically do. Undo minus 4 first by adding 4. Remember, if you do it to the middle, you got to do it to the left, and you got to do it to the right. Negative 10 plus 4 is negative 6. Minus 4 plus 4 is going to cancel out and leave us just with 2x in the middle, and 6 plus 4 is going to be 10. Every step, ask yourself, do I need to reverse the symbols or not? All we did was added 4 right there, so there's no reason to reverse it. Less than or equal to will remain as less than or equal to, and less than will remain as less than. Not quite finished, though, because we're trying to get x by itself, not 2 times x. So divide to cancel out 2 times something. Remember, if you do something to the middle, you need to do it to the left side, and you got to do it to the right side. Negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3, and 10 divided by 2 is 5. Again, one more time, do you need to reverse the symbols or not? The fact that it became negative 3 on the left does not matter. We divided all 3 portions by positive 2. That means we do not reverse the symbols. This less than or equal to will remain just like that, and this one will remain as less than. Now we have negative 3 is less than or equal to x and less than 5. So we need to graph this on the same number line. Again, we want to show 2 numbers. We already have 2 that we need, negative 3 and 5. Make sure you don't mix up which side's on which. The one that's written like this, right here, is the easier one to graph because x is first. X is less than 5 is what it says. So less than 5 is an open bubble, and it's everything this way. That's the first graph. The other one, if you need to rewrite it, this one right here, then rewrite it. Put x first. Just put it on the side. X first and negative 3 second. Make sure the mouth eats the x still because that's what it's doing the way we have it circled. X is greater than or equal to negative 3. That is a closed bubble, meaning we color it in. And greater than is everything that way. Again, this is the overlapping area right here between the two, negative 3 and 5. That is the graph that coincides with 12. Number 13 says, write an inequality for the situation. All real numbers x that are less than negative 4 or greater than 19. So we need x and negative 4. We need to put something right there. And we need x and 19. And we got to put something right there. So the first one, this one right here, less than negative 4. Less than. You know what less than looks like? It looks like this. Less than. Remember the difference. If you can't tell the difference between them, this one you can write the word less than. The other ones you can't. Less than. The other one is backwards. So that one right there, less than, x is less than negative 4. That's part of it. The other one says x is greater than 19. Greater than goes this way. That little bitty word right in the middle is key right here. If it were an and one, we jam x in the middle. Since it's an or one, we write 2 of them separately like we just did, and we put that little word or in the middle. So x is less than negative 4 or x is greater than 19. Notice none of them have a line underneath it because it didn't say or equal to. 14 and 15 say to solve this one, if it has no solution, then write no solution. If the only way it'll have no solution is when you get to the absolute value if it's equal to a negative number. Remember, you can't have a negative distance. That's why there's no solution. You work your order of operations backwards. This absolute value symbol acts like a grouping symbol. Remember, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally tells you how to deal with parentheses first. Parentheses are grouping symbols. When you undo, that means you deal with parentheses or grouping symbols last. So we need to go through our order of operations. We want to get n all by itself. It says minus 16. We know to undo minus something by adding 16 first. 2 times the absolute value of n. now is equal to 20 plus 16 is 36. That says 2 times the absolute value of n. Again, 2 times something, multiplication is undone next. Divide by 2. You divide the left, divide the right. Now you have just the absolute value of n, which is equal to 36 divided by 2, which is 18. Now, we have our absolute value isolated. That's what we were trying to do. This is talking about the distance of n is 18. Remember, when you're talking about the absolute value, this is 0 here. There's a distance to the left and a distance to the right, all your positive numbers and all your negative numbers. So you need to set this equal not only to the positive value 18, but you need to set it also equal to the negative value. It creates two problems. N is equal to 18, or n is equal to negative 18. 18 or negative 18. There's only one step you have to undo for number 15 to get it to the absolute value. It says 3 times the absolute value of x plus 3/4 equals 6. Divide by 3 on both sides. When you do it there, do it here. 6 divided by 3 is 2. Now you have the absolute value of x plus 3/4 is equal to that. Just like we did for number 14, set it equal to positive and set it equal to negative. X plus 3/4 equals 2, or x plus 3/4 equals negative 2. You're going to undo it the same way. Undo plus 3/4 by subtracting it. When you subtract 3/4 from 2, you're left with x's value, which is 1 and 1/4. That's one of them. Or when you subtract 3/4 on the other one, you're left with x is equal to negative 2 and 3/4. Negative 2 and 3/4. So x is 1 and 1/4, or x is negative 2 and 3/4. Number 16 says y is less than 2x minus 4. Again, it says mx plus b. So b tells you where to begin at negative 4. So at negative 4 right there. M is 2. Remember, M tells you where to move. It's got to be a fraction. So if it's not 1, make it 1. 2 over 1. Positive 2 tells you to go up 2. Positive 1 tells you to go to the right 1. So up 1, 2, and to the right 1. There is your second point. If this were just an equation, we'd draw a straight line through those 2 points and be done. It's not. It is an inequality. The first difference with inequalities, you have to determine if it's a dotted line or a straight line or a solid line. Remember, if it said or equal to, it'd be a solid line. This one just says less than, so it's just going to be a dashed line through those 2 points. So it'll look like that. The second difference with inequalities is you have to shade one side or the other. Pick a point that is not on a line. 0, 0 is the easiest point to pick. If it's not on a line, use it. So right now it's not. We can plug in place of y. 0 is less than in place of x. 0 minus 4. 0 is less than anything times 0 is 0 minus 4. Right here, evaluate this one's truth value. 0 is less than negative 4. 0, 0 is false, which means everything away from 0, 0 is correct. That's your graph for number 16. Number 17 is not in slope-intercept form. 2x plus 2y is greater than or equal to 6. You can move it to slope-intercept form, or you can use the intercepts to graph it. We're going to use the intercepts, do it a little quicker. The x-intercept is when you plug in 0 for y. So 2x plus 2 times 0 is greater than or equal to 6. Anything times 0, eliminate. 2x plus anything times 0 is 0 is greater than or equal to 6. Divide by 2, and x is greater than or equal to 3 when you divide by 2 on both sides. So your x-intercept in that case is on your x-axis, it's at 3. Your y-intercept, you're going to do the same thing. For your y-intercept, you'll plug in 0 in place of x. So 2 times 0 plus 2y is, we can say equal to for a second, 6. So that eliminates that part. 2y is equal to 6. So y then is equal to 3. So on your y-axis, it's also going through 3. So you have 2 points that you can draw a straight line through. The greater than or equal to part still tells you it's either a dashed line or a solid line. Or equal to means it's going to be a solid line through those 2 points like that. Remember, that's the first difference with inequalities. The second difference is you have to shade one side or the other. Remember, you can pick one point. If it doesn't pass through 0, 0, you can pick that point. So 0 in place of x is 2 times 0, which is 0, plus 0 in place of y is 0, is greater than or equal to 6. 0 is greater than or equal to 6. Again, truth value of that statement. Is that true? No, 0 is not greater than or equal to 6, which means you shade everything away from 0, 0. This one says x is greater than or equal to 2. If you're graphing a single variable like this in a plane of a two variable plane, x is greater than or equal to 2. This is your x-axis. At 2 is where it's going to cross through. Greater than or equal to means it's going to be a solid line. Remember, anytime you have only one variable like this, it's either going to be straight up and down or straight across. It's going to be vertical or horizontal. Greater than or equal to, again, you can plug in 0, 0. 0 is greater than or equal to 2. That is not true, which means you shade away from 0, 0. Write an inequality for this graph. You can see clearly that it goes through at 4. So x and 4. It is an open bubble, so it's not going to be or equal to, but it does go this direction. So right there, x is less than 4. Tina can type 50 words per minute, right, and graph an inequality to model this situation. So x and 50, at least. There we go. That means she's going to type 50, 51, or some above that. So the number she's going to type has to be greater than or equal to 50. That is the inequality that represents that. To graph it, you want to show 50 in relation to 0. So you want to show it as a positive number. Greater than or equal to means you're going to color the bubble itself in. And greater than means all of the numbers larger than 50. Solve this inequality. 3 times m minus 7. Distribute 3 times m and 3 times negative 7 minus 21 is greater than 9. Undo minus 21 by adding 21 to both sides. So 3m, 9 plus 21 is 30. No reason to reverse the symbol. Again, in order to get m by itself, it says 3 times m, so divide by 3 to undo that. 30 divided by 3 is 10. One more time, do you have to reverse the symbol? All we did was divide by a positive, so no. M is greater than 10. Write a compound inequality representing each situation, graph it. All real numbers at least negative 4. So right here, at least negative 4. X and negative 4. At least means that x has to be greater than or equal to negative 4. And at most, negative 1. Again, x and negative 1. At most means that the numbers are going to be smaller than negative 1. So x has to be less than or equal to negative 1. This is an and inequality right here, and in the middle. So you're not just writing the word and in the middle. You have to change it and put the x in the middle itself. Negative 1 is bigger than negative 4, or negative 4 is a smaller number. So put that one first, then the x. Make this symbol match the same direction as this one. Here is your compound inequality as an and inequality. Negative 4 is first, negative 1 is next. X is less than or equal to negative 1, color the bubble in and everything that way. X is greater than, we have it written right here, separate, greater than or equal to negative 4, color the bubble in that way. There is the graph that matches. 23, write a compound inequality for this one. So right here you have negative 1, x and negative 1. That's an open bubble, so it's less than. You can see it goes this direction, so x is less than negative 1. This one right here is 1, x and 1. It's a colored bubble this time, so that means or equal to. You know it's going to be or equal to, and it goes this direction, so x is greater than or equal to. It's not an overlapping area. Since it's not an overlapping area, this is an or inequality. X is less than negative 1, or x is greater than or equal to 1. Find x and y intercepts. We did this earlier, graphing that one inequality. In order to find your x-intercept, you plug in 0 for y. X minus 6 times 0 is 48. Anything times 0 cancels that part out. X is 48. That's your x-intercept right there. In order to find your y-intercept, you plug in 0 for x. So 0 minus 6 times y is 48. Again, 0, there's no reason to write 0 minus anything. Negative 6y is equal to 48. Divide by negative 6 on both sides. A positive divided by a negative is a negative, and 6 goes into 48 8 times. There's your y-intercept, negative 8. Solve this equation, variables on both sides. Collect your smaller one over on the same side as your larger one. 4 is positive, so subtract 4x. When you do it to the left, do it to the right. 5x minus 4x is 1x minus 5 is equal to, you still have negative 7. Don't lose the negative in front of the 7. Undo minus 5 by adding it to both sides. Negative 2 plus 5, negative 7 plus 5 is negative 2 is equal to x. So therefore, x is equal to negative 2. Write an equation for the line that's parallel to the given line. Y equals 7 over 3x plus 10. Y equals mx plus b. Your m value for this one is 7 over 3. Remember, parallel lines have the same slope. So the new line is going to have the same slope. So you're given a slope and you're given a point. It says it passes through the point negative 3, negative 6. So since you have a slope and a point, put it in point slope form. Y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. So m goes in, your slope goes in place of your m value. Nothing changes for your m. It's 7 over 3. Your x sub 1 and y sub 1 values are the opposite of what they say since it's minus. So for y sub 1, we have negative 6. Right here, we're going to put in plus 6. And for your x sub 1 right here, we have negative 3. We're putting in plus 3. So here is your equation in point slope form. Y plus 6 is equal to 7 over 3 times x plus 3.